Junior rocking the FIABA hard.
I like it.
So, Junior, you were literally born into buy here, pay here. And not many people that are born into it stay with it. They stray and come back. So why did you stick with this?
I just wanted to be around my dad, to be honest. I saw the hard work. I saw the potential. I saw the flexibility that the industry gives you if you have the right people in place. So you can have a lot of fun with it, and you got to work hard. And I've always been taught to work hard.
Okay, let's talk about that fun, because you and your family, out of a lot of dealership families that I meet, you guys actually like each other and you spend a ton of time together and you vacation together and you work together. How did that dynamic happen? Because that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I mean, so we get along most of the time, right? You're always going to have your little quirks and, disagree or have different ideas, but I think our main goal is always the same, right? Helping our team and our customers has always been at the forefront, and everything else will come. But like, we use business trips, like our 20 group meetings, as fun, right? Our spouses and our kids can go hang out and have fun while we work, and then we get a couple minutes here and there and we can, interact with them and whatnot. But I mean, just that mutual respect too. It's what we were raised, brought up with, DNA. I don't know exactly what to call it, but we do have fun together. We do work a lot together. We have a group chat, me, Dad, and Megan. So, I mean, we're always involved in keeping the pulse on the place.
So because you basically run the dealership and Dad is now vacationing and enjoying more of a retired life than he once was. Would you agree with that statement?
He still has his pulse on the place. He goes to the auctions, and since everything's cloud-based and online, he's still checking in and seeing sales and collections and traffic and, delinquency. He's still very much involved. Just with modern technology, he doesn't have to physically be there. And then he relies heavily on Megan and I for real-time data, I guess you could say, right? Because we're reaching out and we're talking to the customer, and we're actually telling them, hey, listen, they're struggling, we're helping, or go pick up this one, or this car's just a nightmare, and, all that other good stuff that comes in between.
But day to day, it seems like you and Megan wear the weight of what happens at that dealership, right?
Absolutely.
So for the younger generation that's coming into the family business and taking more of an ownership role, are you still paid as an employee? Are you an owner now?
Nope. Salary. Just the hopes of becoming an owner one day, or at least the reins getting passed down. But yep, just a salary employee. My name's on some SunBiz documents in case something happens, but really the final say ends with him. He just trusts us a lot to make the day-to-day decisions.
Okay. Do you think you'll take over this dealership one day? Like, fully?
Absolutely. Yep. Oh yeah. I wouldn't work so hard and miss family time if I didn't, because I still have a wife and 2 kids at home. But, one day it will be mine or ours, depending if Megan wants to hang out forever or not. I don't know her idea or plans.
Okay. So Keith, I don't know anything about your story at all. You want to give me a quick, 15, 30 second, did you start it? Is it a generational dealership?
Sure. My dad started Autoland. We've been in the automotive industry since probably the late 50s. My grandpa used to have a company. He passed away in 2007 that rebuilt Stars and Altmares, and they were, I think, the largest rebuilder family owned in the nation at the time. And in 2000, my dad decided to kind of step back from that, and him and my grandpa had kind of started piddling in rebuilding wrecks. And in 2000, Dad decided that he was going to do that full time. So he left Midstate and then worked with them on a consulting basis, but started rebuilding wrecks. And I think he said he had like $20,000 or $30,000 to start rebuilding wrecks, and he was rebuilding late model wrecks and put his money out there in those cars, and they weren't really selling. And he was stepping back from his dad's company. He's like, man, I've really got to come up with a way to generate a paycheck. So at these wreck sales, he would buy these cheap cars, usually with mechanical issues, and then fix them. And he started selling them to my grandpa's workers. My grandpa worked for like 300 people. And so he had the payroll department garnishing their $25, $50 weekly payment. And my grandpa kind of like, what, I was in the payroll department and I had seen that were writing you a check once a month. Like, what's going on there? And Dad's like, well, I've been buying these cheap cars and selling them to your workers on payments because I needed to replace my income from here. And my wrecks that I've got built aren't really selling. And I just kind of started doing that. My grandpa was like, well, that's a neat idea. So then they started a buy here, pay here. It wasn't together, but they were kind of doing it both under one license. And they kind of did that for a while. And then in 2004, my dad formally started Autoland. And that's really kind of how we got into the buy here, pay here business. Was almost by an accident, selling cars to people that he was friends with that worked for my grandpa on payments. And they would just take the money, their check on Friday.
Oh my gosh, that's great. So talk to me about your day to day. So
So I,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I run the store from day to day. Dad's at the service center every day, but I'm heavily involved in the service center operations, but then also the car lot for sure and the finance operations. I run that for sure. And then he manages the day to day, but I buy the cars and we kind of, do that reconditioning together.
Okay, so father-son relationship in business. Are you paid salary percentages, part
Sure.
owner
So I
now?
make a salary out of both companies, or not the reinsurance, but the finance company and the dealership. And then I'm 50% owners in the reinsurance company.
Neat. So with the reinsurance, is that something that was brought to the table later and then you came into it after it had been a little bit more established?
Yeah, so in 2019, I had joined a 20 group. Ironically, from a video I had watched late at night on YouTube. It was an NIADA panel, and several of the guys are like, the best thing that I ever done for my buy your pay your business was join a 20 group. And I actually ended up meeting several of those dealers later on at conventions. But I was like, man, I got to figure out what that is. So I just started looking, and there was some contact information online. I reached out to NIADA and they put me in a group. And my first meeting was in Sarasota, down in Florida, where I met the Clarks. I don't think Mike Jr. was there, but Senior was. And then I met Junior the next meeting. And because of my involvement in the 20 groups, we then started a finance company shortly after that. And then that turned to reinsurance as well.
Okay, so then you were there at the start of the reinsurance.
Yeah, and the finance company. I started
Okay.
both of those.
Okay, cool. So talk to me about your reinsurance. Do you pull out from that to buy cars, to stack up for
We
tax
do.
time? Talk to me
We're
about how you.
prioritizing unit sales. Okay, we're trying to grow our buy here, pay here portfolio. And so we reinvest the reinsurance money to the dealership so that we can maximize the units on the street and grow our business.
Okay, and do you have like some systematic approach that, in this quarter we pull, or are you just pulling when you need it? How does that work for
We
you guys?
we just pull as much out of it as we can to reinvest into buying cars. We don't we're a lot of dealers are mature, maybe at some stage of their whatever, they have a number, whether that's, so many cars on the road or so many sales per month. And we just not reached my goal. And so we're just all in. If we have money, we buy cars.
Okay, gotcha. And do you have any other investments outside of the car business?
I own, with my brother-in-law and father-in-law, some farms, okay, which they don't really generate a whole lot of money. But we've got several hundred acres and we have a cow calf operation. And then we have some commercial real estate where we've done this here recently. I bought a commercial piece of property through the dealership and I've been developing commercial storage units on it. And then we've got some rental houses too.
Awesome. So do you think you'll die at the desk?
I get bored really easily. And I cannot sit at home. Like if I get sick, I'm, on the couch for one day and then I'm like, man, I got to do something. I can't hardly sit still. I get bored really easily. And this sounds silly, but if I get, bored, I get depressed. And in college, I didn't realize it, but because I didn't really have a whole lot to do, I got depressed. Not like, anything crazy, but I'm just like, man, I just don't know that this is the direction that I want to take my life. And I didn't realize that if I'm not busy and actively working towards something productive, I get, very irritable and I'm just not happy. I'm most happy when I'm being productive. And on Sunday night, I can't wait for Monday morning. And it's just because I like to do stuff. I like to be productive. It doesn't always have to be at the dealership. It can be on the farm. I, get a lot of joy there. But I have to be productive. So the idea of me retiring, I just don't know. I tell Mike Jr. all the time. I'm like, I'm gonna buy a house in Florida. I'm gonna be your neighbor because we become really good friends through 20 groups. And I'm like, and I'm gonna come down there for like 1 or 2 days. And I'm gonna come back to work. So I don't know. I'll probably, if I might not die at the desk, but like I'll be doing something. If I get to where I want to go in life, I'll probably be selling cars and I'll probably be raising cattle.
So some people call it ADD, but I call it like it sounds like you're just a serial entrepreneur. You just go, 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 and you can't stop. And
I just
you're
enjoy
happy
it.
to,
It's
yeah.
not fun just sitting around not doing anything. I just like being productive. And that doesn't have to mean, productive towards an economic goal. Like money's not really my goal. I mean, we do what we do to make a profit. Don't misunderstand, but I'm not really motivated by money. I'm motivated by, accomplishing things.
So Mike, let's talk about your underwriting because some dealers are very strict with their underwriting. And then they sit back and they're like, I have no idea why we're not selling more cars than we are. And then we have dealers that are more loose with their underwriting and they're able to move more units and get more cash flow. What is your underwriting process over there?
So like all the lead generation and all that stuff is awesome. And a lot of people can underwrite and sell online, deliver online, never see the customer. My dad's always been big on customer, right? He wants to know them, see them, touch them, all that good stuff. Our general manager, Vinny, knows everybody by name. We really want to have that personal relationship with them. So as for underwriting, all the leads that come into the DMS or the CRM and the way to communicate with them is all great. But at the end of the day, we want everybody to come to the store and have a sit down and talk to them. Like, what's their story? Why are they here? What do they need? What are they trying to get to? I mean, we've got customers with perfect credit that want to buy a car for their kid and they don't want it on their credit, right? And then we have others that are trying to buy a house so they don't want it on their credit. We don't report to credit. And we also don't pull credit. So when I was in a networking group for BNI, it's Business Network International, big group. So my tagline was relationship lending. I want to build the relationship with the customer and lend them off of that versus what you see on paper, because sometimes it doesn't correlate and sometimes it absolutely does, right? So I think, and we stand behind communication is key, right? If there's an open line of communication, you can do anything. When one or the other shut down, you can't do anything. So that's what we base our underwriting on, is communication and how we interact with the consumer.
What's your average down payment these days?
Last I looked, it was $1,650, I think.
Okay. And what's your average ACV, would you say?
8 to 10.
Okay, Keith, what's your average ACV?
Probably $6,500 after recon.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
And what's your
included.
average down?
The average down, it fluctuates a little bit. We're kind of in a tough spot right now. Down payments are kind of slipping, but historically it averages about 1,000. Now it's about 890, 900.
You looking at a
So
certain amount of time at the job, time at the residence?
we use an overall stability of the customer to gauge what we're able to do with them. So we're able to get some people approved with short job time, some people approved with short residence time. It's really just a conglomeration of their overall stability. We pull a hard credit report, and then we're getting 2 most recent check stubs and using the net income to calculate what's affordable to them. We have a hard cap at 25% payment to income ratio. And the underwriting that we use, we have a software that helps us be consistent. But we're really just looking for a certain grade. And if it meets our tier level of approval, we'll say yes, as long as the payment to income ratio is within the margin that we're looking for. We see that, down payment's not a strong indicator of loan success, but payment to income ratio is for sure.
Are you using Neo, just side note?
Yes.
Okay, it sure sounded like it. Okay, so how long are you letting these people drive once they're past due?
We used to take a really hard cutoff approach on X number of days past due, X number of days since they missed their last payment. In the last 6 months, because our customer is struggling a little bit more, we've kind of gotten away from that. And I'm not for sure that that's not the better way to go. We're kind of in a transition from a way. It used to be 17 days, no payment, and no contact would get their car, or more than 28 days past due. But yesterday we had a customer that was 55 days past due because, well, it's a long story, but they had a legitimate reason that they were 55 days past due. Historically, that's way further past due than we would let anyone get. but yesterday they brought the money and caught the car up. And so I used to be involved in every one of those decisions. And, as we grew, I kind of give the collections activity over to another lady in our office. And now she makes that decision. And if I see somebody that's more than 30 days past due, I'm asking questions. And then, she'll say like, well, this is going on in their life or whatever. And they will pay us if we'll just give them a little bit of time. And not all the time that works. Okay. But more often than what I would have thought in the past, we see that. And we're really in this economic environment just trying to avoid the charge off if we can, if we think they're going to pay us. Now, communication is key. If they're not communicating with us and we can't get a hold of them, we're obviously not letting them get 55 days past due. But if they've got a legitimate reason and we can verify it, we're giving them a little bit more leniency in this market because we're in a small rural market. And some of these larger markets, you can just blow through customers and it doesn't matter because there's an endless supply of them. But in our small rural market, we're really trying to take care of the customers that will communicate with us and that are taking care of the car. Now, if you're not communicating and you're dodging us and you're putting, 50,000 miles a year on the car and we can't communicate with you, you're not going to get the same leniency than the person that I'm talking about, getting 55 days past due.
Junior, what's your role? I mean, what's your rule in past due?
Yeah, same. Communication's key. I said that in the beginning with underwriting, right? So if you set the precedence in underwriting, it bleeds into collections. So Megan's in charge of that with senior. But I know if somebody's calling and keeping up to date and letting us know their story, as well as like trying to chip away at a balance, that's completely different than, like he said, the person that's ducking and hiding, trying to get away from you. So
why don't you use starter interrupt?
We used to use starter interrupt.
Yeah, I'll let Keith talk to that because he's done it before.
We used to use the old pass down devices we had the wide. I don't know there was two different ones. One of them had a little wire that would come up on the dash, and the other one didn't. And I got tired of the literally 2 o'clock in the morning phone call saying, "Hey, you got my car shut down. I made my payment on Friday." And I'm like, "Well, is it beeping when you try to start?" No, it's not beeping. Well, the battery's probably dead. It's like, no, you've got to shut down for sure. And then come to find out it is a dead battery. And to be honest, like those type of devices might make a customer pay. But they were really effective at first when we first started using them. But after a while, they would figure out how to jump them or disable them or get rid of them. And then it just became like from a collections device to every time there was a problem with the car, it was a phone call to me. And so I just made the decision we're going to quit using those. And we could tell no difference in our collections, no difference in our repos. And that was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I don't regret not using those devices at all. And to be honest with you, like our customer's going to pay it or not. Okay. Whether you have their car disabled doesn't make that big of a difference. Now, if you're using like a Gold Star device with a starter interrupt so that you can disable the car somewhere so that you can go get it, that's fine. But if you're disabling cars, okay, because of the lack of payments, one, it's a compliance risk. You need to be careful and make sure you document how you do that.
Yeah.
But then also, like, if you disable the car, then they're going to start looking for why it won't start, and they're going to find it. So just shutting cars off for payments, that's not something that I'm interested in doing anymore. But if you want to use it as a repo tactic to keep the car from moving while you dispatch a repo agent, sure, that makes sense. But we just don't use that technology anymore, and it just didn't make much difference in underwriting.
Very interesting. Okay. Junior, do you have anything you want to say about GPSs, or should we move to the next thing?
I mean, we've never used the starter interrupt. It's just literally to track the location of the vehicle to get the repo company to go get it. Like he said, if they're gonna run, they're gonna run. If they're gonna pay, they're gonna pay. Shutting off the car just creates another obstacle, right? And then I've heard horror stories where you shut it off, but it wasn't running anyway. So now they think you caused a problem. So now you got to tow it into your shop or another shop and fix it because they think it's your issue. So it's just better that, in our opinion, that you just don't shut them off. You just track them because that's all we care about is where's our collateral,
I think you were just at a 20 group meeting or something recently, Mike. Was that true?
We're both in the same one. So I think our last one was what, buddy? Not Colorado, Virginia.
Yeah, it was 2 months ago.
It was recent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So from each of you, what is the one or two top takeaways from this last group meeting that you have that you just wish another dealer could know about?
Actually got some notes here. I was looking from our meeting. Basically the biggest takeaway that I had from our last 20 group meeting is really dialing in some of the KPIs. I was looking at my notes here from it. And some of the KPIs that I identified that we really wanted to start monitoring. Some of these we were already watching, but the percentage of KEP promise to pays, our DMS before didn't have the ability to keep that. That will gauge the effectiveness of the promises that you're taking from your customers. The number of accounts that are charged off as a percentage of your portfolio, delinquency on the last Friday of the month, your 1 to 29 day recency, obviously your sales number, and then the recon number of tickets that you're doing per week, but then also the cost of those per week. And something that I added to this recently was the amount of goodwill that we're giving away at the shop per week. So those are some of the KPIs from my last 20 group meeting that I had
Keep
on a
that
note
out.
here.
We're going to talk about that. Do you know any of those numbers now that you have those those key points? Did you go
I
find
haven't looked
data?
this week yet, but our CAT promise to pay percentage is went between, it used to be about 15 to 25%, and now we're running 50 to 60% because we're auto scheduling our promise to pays. We give away a lot of money at the shop. I've been texting Mike Jr. about that. We're giving away $1,000, $2,000 a week minimum in goodwill at the shop. The
Okay, and just
delinquency,
define for other
go ahead.
dealers, how do you categorize goodwill? Give me an example.
How do I categorize goodwill? It's a repair that doesn't necessarily fall in the scope of the warranty, on the powertrain warranty, but we decide to not charge it. So we had one this morning. The customer had the car for 2 weeks. It's a warranty it's a claim that wouldn't be covered under our reinsurance warranty, but it's something we're not going to charge the customer for because they've only had the car for 2 weeks.
Got it. Okay.
Sure. And then you want me to keep going down this list?
Yeah, how are you looking on the last Friday of the month delinquency wise?
So I would really like to get to 10%. Okay. But we were reaching those goals through COVID, but now it's not so much. Today, based on my estimation, it's the last Friday of the month. We'll be at 15%, maybe a little bit less than 15% on our 1 day delinquency. Plus, but we really as a company want to get to 10% of our portfolio delinquent. But then also we have really low charge off numbers. A lot of months it's about 1% of our portfolio, and we really want to stay around that 1% of our portfolio, definitely no more than 1.5%. And it kind of fluctuates somewhere in between there. We've just come out of a 2 or 3 month period where we had really high charge offs. And then we want to get as close as we can to 10% at the end of the last Friday of the month on delinquency.
Mike, do you know what yours are? Delinquency percentages?
Well, I'm higher than that because we take partials and promise to pays. So like if the payment's $2 or $250 and you take a $50 payment or $75, the delinquency is still there, but the recency is up, right? So we look at both comparatively, right? So sometimes we'll be at 15, 18, 20%, but our recency is at 98%. So at least I'm talking to 98% of my portfolio before they get to delinquency or while they're in delinquency. And that's what we like to see, is that there's a happy medium between both. I do like in our last 20 group meeting, a dealer was like, I don't take like 50 on Friday and then 200 on Monday, right? We'll just save your money and pay me on Monday. So that way, the way I understood it and the way I feel it is, if I gave you 50 of the 200 I owed you, well, now I'm off your plate, right? I'm out of sight, out of mind. I already took care of you, so I can go do other things, rather than, oh my God, they rejected money, they don't want it, I better pay them the 200 on Monday like I'm supposed to. So I want to enact that. Yeah, I want to enact that. We haven't done it yet. We've always been a firm believer something's better than nothing. It's easier to come up with 150 than it is 200. So it's an inner office discussion that we haven't pulled the trigger on, but I really like that philosophy. But then again, your delinquency will be up and your recency may be down, but you just have to try it out for 3 to 4 months to see if the delinquency goes down, if it makes sense or not.
That's really interesting that you just said that. You kind of blew me away with that
Well, it's the guy
that
sitting
idea.
next to you that
Because
it's
I
that guy
know
right there.
what that
Keith's the one who mentioned it in our 20 group
I-
meeting. Like, I really do.
this was your bright idea?
Yeah, that we don't take partial payments. We used to, but so we made that decision, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. It's really working for us. The way that I trained the office staff was, listen, you can always take a no and turn it into a yes on a phone call, but you can never take a yes and turn it into no. So if a customer calls and says, hey, I want to make a double payment next Friday, if you say yes, that's the end of the phone call. Okay, we should always say no 2 times before we say yes. So can I make a double payment next Friday? No, unfortunately, the payments have to be made on time. Oh, well, can I make a partial then? Unfortunately, no. Payments have to be made, when they're due on the due date. And then the customer, well, I really don't have anything. It's like, well, okay, we'll take a double next Friday. But usually when you give that abrasion, a lot of times they'll pay. And we're not, unreasonable. If they got something serious going on and they really can't pay, that's fine. We'll work with them. But we try to put up just a little bit of resistance before we take that promise to pay. And if a customer comes in and, like you had an example yesterday where the customer is really far behind because one of the people in this relationship was off for childbirth, which is a legitimate concern. I have 4 kids. I know exactly how that is. And they owed $1,000 and we're trying to work with them and they wanted to pay 200. And so we're like, listen, you just need to keep your $200 because that's not going to make a difference.
Hold on. How much did they owe?
They owe 1,000. They're $1,000 behind. Okay. And they were trying to pay 200. And so we're like, we're working with them because they're repeat customers. Okay. And it's a long story,
but
but
you did not take their 200?
No.
Interesting. Oh my God.
Because if they pay me the $200, they know that, well, we got Autoland and Keith happy. They're good. Okay. They took our money. We're still $800 behind, but they're off our back. And while we do want to work with them, okay, and it's my ultimate goal to have them keep their car. They really need to give me more than $200 because that's not enough of the past due amount to satisfy. And ultimately what we'll do is this lady that just had the child, she'll get back to work. We'll take a couple payments on time and then we'll refinance their loan and get them current because they are great people and they will pay us for this car. She just had a child and then they got some other young ones that had been sick and long story short, it's kind of a bad situation.
Forget that lady.
Well, she keeps losing jobs because her kids are getting sick because they're in daycare. So it's a bad situation, but we're trying to work with her. They're really good people.
But generally
speaking, okay, we'll not take the money because what happens is it satisfies. Their perception is I've got them taken care of. They're good, and so they made a partial payment, and they a lot of times won't pay again. Okay, until the next payment comes around. And so we really want the customer to be on time. So just when you say no to a partial, the customer's like, oh man, they're being serious. And a lot of times they'll just go ahead and pay the payment. Not every time, but they know that we're at least being serious. And that has worked well for us. I would recommend.
Junior, what does your dad think of this idea?
So we're teasing the idea, right? And it boils down to what we both said in the beginning, communication, right? Keith knows her whole story. If you're sitting in some Eiffel Tower just looking at reports, it's like, how come I didn't go pick up that car? So you still have to have a pulse. You still have to know who you're dealing with. You still have to know the customer at the end of the day. And then you have to be able to relate to them, right? I've got 2 kids. I've got 6 nieces and nephews. So like, I understand like a childbirth or kids getting sick because of daycare and all this other stuff, right? So Keith put a bad to a good and he's hoping for a positive outcome because she was great until something happened, not bad, and then added something that happened, right? So you have to be able to.
We could take her car away from her because she's, really far past due. We could take the car from her. But the truth of the matter is she's not going to walk. She's going to drive somebody's car. Okay. And I've got history with these customers. I know she's a good person. I know she's telling me the truth. They're just going through a rough spot. I would much rather work with her over 2 or 3 months, keep her in my car than I would to take it from her. The next customer might be far worse. Eventually she's going to get out of this spot because we've got history with her. She's bought several vehicles from us, her and her husband. I know that they'll get this figured out and be back on track. I'm just not getting upset about it today. I just got to get her back on track. And the $200 is not enough to.
And
so
and also too, if you look at his recon process, right? So now he's got a repo fee. He's got a finance company, so he's got to go through all that paperwork stuff. And then if he reconditions it, it's going to be more than the 1,000 she owes. And if you know, like, and trust her, just keep her in that one that you don't have to keep breathing life into and that you know that you'll get it on the other side. And then the story she's going to tell, man, I was down and out, but they helped me, or they waited till I got back on my feet, but I had to communicate with them. Like, so there's so many positives that you can spin on any of those situations. And you've got to look at the whole picture, right? The customer,
I agree with
the balance, what they're behind, all that's what your recon process is. Do you need cars to resell?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on
Absolutely
that.
don't
Like,
need them. Yeah. So there's a lot of factors beside, and everybody thinks that we just go pull cars. That's the last thing we want to do. We'd rather have the income and the money coming in the front door, because I can go buy another car. Can't always go find another customer. So really, repos, I hate repos. When people put repos up for sale and they talk about all that stuff, I hate repos. It's a necessary evil. You don't want to do it, but you have to do it. And since we're on kind of like the repo topic, we look at how many we pick up and how many redeem versus how many don't, right? So you pick up 20 and 15 redeem those same cars. That's 15 less I have to process. That's 15 customers that I try to get back on track, to get back in the saddle. The other 5 were going to be bad regardless, right? So we really track repo redemption rate more than just the overall repo number.
so are those your numbers, the ones that you just provided? Your repo
That was a
redemption rate?
hypothetical. No, that's a hypothetical.
Keith, what's the deal with people trading up with you? Do you like have a hard and fast? All right, when they're under $3,000, we'll get them over into another vehicle.
Sure. So we do this like all the time. If they're less than 12 months in the loan, they're going to have a down payment. Between 12 and 18 months, it's just going to depend on the situation. Okay. Sometimes they might have to have a down payment, sometimes not. And then after 18 months, no down payment. And then we'll just pay the car off with the related finance company as a dealership taking it back in on trade. But we do not roll any kind of negative equity, and we just start over in the loan.
That sounds
Okay.
a lot better than mine.
Yeah, that's pretty concise actually from you, Keith.
Yeah.
That was very, very concise. Okay, so tell me, what is your dot fee, guys?
But before
I
we
think
go
ours
on,
is
like
$4.99.
a huge factor though too is finance company, related finance company, reporting to credit and not reporting to credit. Those make a ton of difference in what people can and can't do.
Yeah.
You can always take the car back in on trade. We report to credit, and we just pay the car off.
Right. So it shows a
What's
a
your-
paid off loan.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. It
Yeah.
does make a big difference.
Right. And his charge off is
And-
less, or is it? Is your
There would be
charge-off
no
changes?
charge off.
Right. So
Why
his
would there not?
charge-off
Charge-off.
numbers are different. So that, I mean, that's a huge factor in what you can and can't do. And if you're leveraged with a bank or all this other stuff. So it's
Really, loan covenants would make the biggest difference.
right. And that's another thing that most people forget about, right? It's not that we don't want to do it or we can't do it. It's just some things in the background, administrative wise, won't allow you to do it. So you
Yeah.
have to roll
Well,
negative equity. You have to.
If
do
you were
other
working
stuff.
on some type of advance rate, like you're getting a 60% advance rate off a principal, and then if a customer come in and they're not in an equity position, and then you trade the car back in, but you have to replace the borrowing base with your loan, you as the dealer, you wouldn't really want to do that because you're having to shore up your borrowing base on money that you haven't received yet in payments from the customer. But because we don't have any kind of agreements like that, we can just take the car back in our trade for what's owed.
Let me ask you this question. How many times do you have a record of how many times you've sold the same buy here, pay here car, Junior?
I don't know.
You don't?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Do you keep?
Yeah. Huh?
We keep track of how many times each car has been sold, but I don't know the number of the most times it's been sold. But we had a car back, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago that had been sold like 9 times. And that is a mistake. Okay. There's something wrong if a car has to be sold that many times before it's paid off and gone. So either it was bad underwriting and we had the customer flipping the car over, or there was something wrong with the car that we just weren't seeing and reconditioning. But really, if you have a car that's sold that many times because it's been out on the books for short periods of time and it's coming back, something's wrong with the car, something's wrong with the customers you're putting in the car. You really need to take a look and say, like, why isn't this becoming a success story? Why does this car keep coming back?
Okay, so
Make
this
sure that
might,
it's a good car.
this might be a little controversial, but wouldn't you be glad to maybe perhaps get that car back and sell it 11 times?
I
I'd
don't
rather
think so. I mean,
Yeah, I'd rather them trade it in and trade up rather than me repoing it, reconditioning it, or they come in for a mechanical issue. I have to put them in something else and fix this one because I'm buried in it and I can't justify selling it for a loss. I'd so much rather a trade-in or a swap out or a trade-in most dealers' eyes. I'd rather a trade-in than bragging about selling the same car 9 times to 9 different people, because you've lost 8 other customers that may or may not still be on your books because of that one vehicle. So it would have been better to take that one vehicle, get rid of it, and still keep those 8 or 9 customers that were in that same car, because you just gained 8 people instead of losing 8 people. So I think
Yeah.
the
We like
dealer,
success stories here.
yeah, I'd rather them want to trade in
That's
than give the car back.
that's Mike Jr.'s dad's, saying is we really want success stories. We want to sell good cars to good customers that have a loan structured in a way that the customers can really afford the cars. And we don't want to just be churning cars. Like, sure, if we sold a car 9 times or something, like, could it be profitable? Yes. But it could also not be profitable. It really just depends on, how much money we're spending on the car and reconditioning. In the state of Kentucky, we don't get any kind of rebate back on our sales taxes when the loan defaults. So, it's very possible that it could have been very profitable, but also it's possible that it wasn't profitable at all. And if you're turning a car over that many times, a lot of people from the outside in this business would say, oh, that's awesome, man. You sold this car 9 times. You made a ton of money on it. But that's not always the case. The buy your, pay your business, people that are from the outside looking in think that we want to take the cars back, sell them because that's how we make our money. But in reality, we make 80% of our money with 20% of our customers. And that's because they buy the car and pay the car off. I'm not saying we have 20% of our customers paying off, but there's that principle that says 80% of your profit probably comes from 20% of your customers, and that's probably accurate. We really want to set the customer up in a good car with a loan that they can afford so that they can pay the car off. We do not want the car back.
And that's another thing too. You got to make it affordable. So speaking in
Correct.
dad's terms, they have to be able to see the potential to pay it off from the get-go. Because if they don't see that, oh, it's a $15,000 or $20,000 loan, man, I've never made that kind of money. I'll never be able to pay this thing off, but they're giving me a chance, so they sign. That deal has more of a possibility to fold than selling it for a fair price with a fair payment and it paying off. They can see that, oh, this term's 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, and they can actually see themselves owning it at the end of the day rather than just always paying the same person and never getting ahead. Dad always said
This
you
is
have
one of
to
the
give
few.
them light at the end of the tunnel.
That's what I was going to say. This is one of the few businesses where you can actually charge too much for your product. Okay, and just because you can get it at the time of sale doesn't mean that you're going to collect it. And we want to make sure that we're not putting phantom profits on the books, okay, and then charging it off later. And like Mike says, you got to make sure that there's light at the end of the tunnel, because you can overcharge for your cars, and it'll cause your charge-offs to go up because you're charging too much, and you're not going to collect it. It doesn't matter what you charge for the car. Okay, you can get more than you can actually collect for it at the time of sale, and that's a fact.
Okay, so let's talk about that for just a second. And by the way, you guys can ask each other's questions too. But we all know that the APR, this is high risk financing, is quite high. Do you ever feel guilty about that as a dealer?
Nope.
The charge-off, the interest is to offset the charge-off losses. So if you look at our interest rate, it's high, but if you look at our charge-off losses, they're very high.
Junior, when you're sitting across the desk from somebody that's purchasing a vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
do you ever feel guilty about that interest rate?
No, because if it weren't for dealers like us, no bank covenants, no leverage, all this other stuff, they wouldn't have a chance, right? Because the big banks have stricter underwriting and they have to fit in this cookie cutter mold. And because that they don't, we can give them an opportunity. And also too, we don't charge state max. We're not even close. There is no prepayment penalty. If they win the lotto tomorrow, they only pay the one day that the contract was signed. Like it's not this magical number that they can never reach. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. We want them to pay off. We want them to tell others. We want them to come back and buy a second and third and fourth car. So I think we're very fair, and we give an awesome chance, and we help them succeed through the life of the loan. We're not just, 60 days repo, 30 days repo, come hell or high water, you better have your car payment, talk to me and we can work it out. It's not this just black and white. This is what it has to be and it's done. There is
Okay, I
a
gotta
heart.
ask. Okay,
Yeah.
some of your answers are very refreshing from the way that maybe some of us were brought up in this space?
It's also a
Do
different time. I remind my dad that too. It's a different customer, it's a different time, it's a different everything. So there is more flexibility now than there was in the past. I will say that. Because growing up and being around dealers at the auction, it was what you're alluding to. It was that. But now it's completely different. It's more of a banking financing thing than cars. Cars are just a commodity to meet the consumer. That's all they are.
Okay, well, I want to talk about your spouses because you guys are young and you have families and you have beautiful wives, and they put up with a lot of your shit and all that time that you spend in front of that computer and on that dirt at the dealership. How on earth are you balancing keep 4 children, a wife, farms, and a dealership in one day?
My wife is actually sitting here on the other side of the desk looking at me, so she's gonna
Hey,
be happy
Lacey.
to. I couldn't do what I do without her. But then even at the dealership, I've got good people. At home, I've got good people. Around the farm, my father-in-law's there, brother-in-law. I've just, been blessed, and really am surrounded by a lot of people. And sure, I have been able to achieve a lot of my goals over the years, but I'm also not blind to the fact that it's because of the people around me that allow that to happen. And that is the truth.
Do you ever feel like you just work too much, or are you one of those guys that can shut it off? Talk to me about how you handle the relationship with your spouse at home.
Oh, I never shut it off. We have group texts. We have everything's cloud based. I'm going to Napa on Tuesday. I'll bring my laptop with me. I'll check in on stuff. I never shut it off. And the first probably 5 years was rough for her because her dad was a fireman. Her mom is a teacher or administrative at USF. She's a hairstylist, so she can let the phone ring and she'll schedule appointments later. I breathe it. I love it. I enjoy it. I used to come back from vacations and get dropped off at the office to rearrange the car lot, and then I take a car lot car home. That she has stopped me on. I am not allowed to go to the store the minute we land. I have to come home first. But I mean, I think most of the wives know and understand that we're passionate about it and that it provides an awesome living, great flexibility. And there are perks, right? Like I can go to Napa for a week and still get a paycheck, right? And I know that stuff is still getting done because of key people at the store. Without that, you would never be able to leave, right? And it's got to be key people that you can trust. But yeah, the work-life home balance has always been a struggle with me and my wife, but it gets better. It just takes time and understanding. And then she's right most of the time about saying no to certain things that I think I have to do that can wait till tomorrow.
This isn't a career, it's a lifestyle.
It is.
That
Yep,
really is true.
it is. Yeah, if you're a banker, you shut it off at 5 because nothing's getting done. But with us, it can get done on a Saturday or a Sunday. And there's always something to do. Always.
There's always something to do.
So Keith, what has been your biggest dealer flex? Have you ever purchased that?
I don't know. What do you mean by that?
Have you ever purchased something that was just for yourself that was like, man, I've been working extremely hard the last few years. I've grown this place. I'm going to go out and purchase
I'm not really materialistic, but I bought a farm back in the first of this year that was pretty expensive. And if it wasn't from the dealership, I wouldn't have been able to afford to do it. It was a 65-acre farm that joined a farm that we already, well, actually, all of our farms touch, but it was pretty much totally around. Like our farms are all the way around it, basically. And I bought that. If it wasn't for the dealership, you wouldn't have been able to do that. I don't know if that's really a flex. But someone asked me before, they say, how will you know if you've reached success? Like what does success look like in your eyes? And my idea of success is that I've made enough money in the car business that my son can afford to farm if he wants to. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get
great
there, but
answer.
yeah.
Junior, what have you spent your money on in the car business?
Nothing. I'm just a salary employee. I'm good. Working bell to bell, 24 hours on call.
You're
mean, there's
still
no
working
flex
bell to bell?
if I need to, because if I need to cover a shift or if I need to do something else, But like, so the wife's a hairstylist in Tampa. It's an hour and a half drive. Sometimes the Howard Franklin's booked, right? Hey, I can't get the kids, but they have to be picked up by 6, so I'll leave at 5:30, 5:45. Well, we don't close till 6. But also, too, I get all my stuff done when I need to, and if I have to, she'll come home, and then I'll go back to the store and finish what I got to finish. So that's the understanding. When you're in management, you get what you need to get done, and if you can't, you figure out a way to make it work. I think my biggest saying is, I'll figure it out, right? No matter what happens, I'll figure it out.
No.
But yeah, I don't have a flex. I'm like Keith. I'm happy. Boat, house, beautiful family, healthy. Everybody's taken care of. There's nothing that we want or need. I just enjoy it, honestly.
And you buy a watch?
Nope.
No? Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Nope.
what is couple rapid fires before we wrap up? Have you ever what do you do after how do you wind down after a long day? Do you prefer a cold drink? Do you prefer like what do you do at winding down a long day, bell to bell, troublemakers at the dealership, not enough leads, not enough sales, so you get home, you walk in the door and you're like, I'm going to
Watch podcasts on YouTube, business podcasts on YouTube. I don't drink. I don't really, do that, but I'll come home and just sit down in my chair and turn on, a PBT podcast or something, or, there's a bunch of that I like to watch. My wife, she's like, why don't you talk to me? I was like, listen, I've only got so many words in a day, and I've used them up. I've got to sit here and calm myself down, Yeah. Well, not every night, but some nights, man, this business will get you. It will, if you let it. It's like fighting the beast all day, every day. And some days will get you down. You just get home, you're like, listen, I need to sit here, I need to calm down, and I need to take a moment and recollect my thoughts. That's not every day, but sometimes, man, they're a lot of problems financing cars all the way around.
It's true.
But it's very rewarding, but some days will get you. They'll test
So
you.
on those select days that you say that to your wife, be honest with me. How does she respond? No, like when you tell her that I don't have any more words left for you right now because it's been a long day, what does she say to that? That's
Sometimes she doesn't understand, but sometimes she does. She understands me a lot better than I understand myself. And we always, go to bed together at the end of the day. And we've dated since we were in high school. So we went to college together and then got married and have got 4 kids together. And I probably I'm the type of person that likes to take on too much at one time sometimes. And it becomes overwhelming. And I'm not a very emotional person, so I don't really deal with that much. And she is a very empathetic person, and she keeps me in check because I would totally devote every minute that I have to work because that's what I enjoy doing. That's what I'm focused on. But she keeps me in check, and she really keeps me totally grounded. I think that every successful relationship should have a kite and a string. Okay. And I'm definitely the kite in our relationship, and she's the string. She keeps me grounded, and that's the truth.
I love that. A kite and a string. I've never heard that before. Did you make that up?
One of my friends told me that,
I
and
love
we were
it.
talking about a mutual friend, and she's like, they're never going to work. And I'm like, why would you say that? And she's like, it's 2 kites. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, explains, he's a kite, his wife's a kite, it's never going to work, and they'll just fly off into the wind. And she's really, she was kind of half joking when she told me that. But as I get older, that is totally right. Every successful relationship that I've ever seen is a kite and a string. You get 2 strings, it doesn't work. You get 2 kites, it doesn't work. You get a
That is
kite and a
so
string,
cool.
and it will be successful. And I was listening to a book this morning. This morning I've spent all morning at a field trip with my son because, and I'm a great dad, but I didn't really want to go, but my wife made me, and she's right. Like I have the flexibility to be able to go, and I should go. And she's like, listen, you're going. I'm like, I don't really want to. There's stuff I could do at the office, but she's like, no, you're going. So I went, and she's 100% right. I have the ability to do that. I should do that. And after I do it, that was the right call. But if it wasn't for her, I would make a lot of the wrong decisions when it comes to work-life balance. And it's not because like I don't love my kids. I do.
Of course,
Okay,
and I know
but
you love her.
I'm just geared to, being at work. from, 7:30, 8 o'clock till 6:30, 7. It's just kind of what I do. And if it's not here at the car lot, it's somewhere else doing something else productive. And she really keeps me in check. And I wouldn't be able to accomplish the things that I, accomplish without her. And I don't know if I have read this somewhere or heard it on some one of the podcasts that I watch, but I do know that it doesn't matter what level of success that I reach. Okay. If my home is broken when I'm older and we're not successful as a couple, I have failed. So while I'm totally focused on work, okay, I also understand that I've got to be, a good husband to her and take care of her, because if I reach, 10,000 buy here, pay here accounts, which isn't my goals, but if I do that and my family's shattered, I've failed
Mhm.
as a business leader, as a husband, as a father, and that's not what I want.
Junior, but as soon as it's a long day, you've worked bell to bell, all kinds of fires that you've had to put out throughout the day at the dealership. You walk into your house, what is the first thing you do?
Hug my kids because they're running towards the front door. I mean, but I mean, I like Mick Ultra. I wind down with a beer, but I honestly like it never shuts off, right? With kids and the wife working too. Like I'm picking them up from school. We're starting homework. We're cooking dinner. We're going to football practice. We're going to cheerleading practice. Like there's never like no throttle. Even last night, son started football, so now he's into football. So we watched Thursday night football, put him to bed at 9. Then I crashed, woke up at 5, went to the gym, started the day. There is no off switch. My off switch is when the wife makes me sit on the couch and do absolutely nothing, which is probably once a year. Or she plans a vacation that I don't think I want to go on, but then when I'm on, I enjoy. So, like Keith was saying, it's the spouse has to be able to regulate the temperature, and she's been really good at prioritizing what's important versus what I feel is important. Because, like Keith, if it weren't for my wife, I'd probably be at work every day, all day, never shutting it off or winding down. I'd always find something to do. And she reminds me that there is a life outside of the dealership too. So there's football games, there's cheerleading, there's vacations, there's just floating in the pool and watching your kids do a cannonball, right? So it's all important, and it takes it. I love Keith's analogy of the kite and the string. It takes the other half to make you see that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Are you guys using AI in your dealerships on a daily basis? If so, how?
We use it for auto lead response in Neo, and it works pretty good. But then also we have subscriptions. We use it for all kinds of stuff. We had this is we threw something away out of a car that was in for service, and how that happens, I have no idea. But just using it to create, blanket releases for like, hey, we're going to compensate you monetarily for this. Sign this release. From things like that to troubleshooting cars. We were having trouble reconditioning AGM batteries, and I was able to use ChatGPT to identify, new technology and battery chargers that we've been relatively successful with, and lots of ways.
Mike, you using it over there?
Just some forms here and there for inter office stuff or emails to vendors, other clients, or municipalities. And then I've used it to not diagnose a car, but it'll search and give you the most relative ways to find out what's going on with the car. So it doesn't tell you like the car's doing this is what you need to do. It says, well, did you check this? Did you check this? Did you replace this? Then do this. So I've used it for that kind of guidance, but it's not the end all be all. It is very helpful. I think it cuts down a lot on manpower and research time, but you still have to, it takes a research that you would take for a day and put it into 30 seconds, but you still have to do the legwork to get there.
Okay. So you're using it for a lot of troubleshooting too. Okay.
Mhm.
What is the wildest thing a customer ever left in their vehicle, like in a trade or a repo?
I don't think anything shocks me anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
If you can see it, they've left it. And it's always important after it's gone. It's never important when it's in their possession.
That's so true. That's so true. So, is there any questions? I mean, you guys talk a lot and you guys are friends, so I'm sure there's really probably no questions that you have for each other. Are there any questions that you have for one another?
Do you have anything, Mike?
Nah, Not right now. I'm sure I'll text you later.
What's the current goal? What are you guys trending towards right now? Like, what's on your mind right now that you want to do by the end of the year?
I would like to get to 500 accounts. I don't know that I can quite get there by the end of the year because of the way that we do our capital. We've got 418 active loans right now, and we don't have bank lines of credit or anything. I got a small line with a bank, but it's really small on our portfolio, and so we are basically cash flowing a lot of these deals. And so I would like to get to 500 by the end of the year. It might be closer to the first or second quarter of the next year. But I would really like to get to 500 accounts, 10% delinquent at the end of the month with a 1 to 1.5% charge off per month. That's a really good recipe for, it'd just be a good spot to be in.
Great goals. Junior, what's on your goals list right now from now to the end of the year?
So it's not accounts, it's not monetary, it's not anything like that. It's happy and growing cohesive staff. We've got some seasoned vets, we've got some new guys, so there's some learning curves going on. We've got one of our techs leaving to join the Navy, so we're in the process of hiring another tech. We hired my wife's cousin, so he's running service right now. So I want a more cohesive, happy work environment. Not that it's bad, right? I just want it to be better, so that way we can grow the next 50 to 125 accounts by the end of next year. And I think Dad's positioned ourselves with enough inventory, with enough capital, with enough knowledge and tools that we can really grow 50 to 75 accounts in the next 14 months.
Awesome.
Let's just be honest. Let's just be real.